The Alaska Weather Show on this Thursday, April 22nd, 2021, and it is Earth Day. Earth Day celebrations began back in 1970. It's a day to observe just the beauty of our planet, the intricacy of life, and how things are all connected, and certainly weather, meteorology encompass that. This is a satellite image, a GOES satellite image that is an archive image when it was first revealed here and back in May of 2018, but you can see the northern and southern hemispheres with the midsection where the tropics are and the equator, the intertropical convergence zone. It's the pale blue dot with the cloud cover there, and Alaska. We're kind of on the northwest fringe of the coverage of the GOES satellite, so that we also rely on polar orbiting satellites because this particular satellite sits right above the equator. It's stationary. We say geostationary, and it's able to take imagery then of the Earth below. Taking a look at what we have in terms of going on in the Earth, being Earth Day, the Muldrow Glacier continues to surge. This particular image was taken up in Denali National Park as Roger Fighton was flying over that on Monday, and you can see the ice breaking up there because the glacier has had this surge. It's part of the glacier cycle, but it hasn't happened in over 60 years, since 1956-57. So it is of great interest to scientists, and they are continuing to study and monitor the activity, but this is what it looks like when flying a plane above it. And thank you to Roger as he was making a flight northward toward Fairbanks on Monday. Well, looking at the Alaska River breakup map, we are starting to see some openings occur because we've had some rather warm temperatures through the Yukon Valley, and we're getting some reports of some openings there on the Tanana as well as the Nana rivers, and I would expect in some other locations as well. And as we continue to see warm daytime temperatures here, especially across the interior as we go through the upcoming weekend. So we do need your help. What we need are some spotter reports, pictures or videos, whether you're on the ground or flying over, if that's something you can do. You can submit verbal reports too. You can email us pictures or video links at nws.ar.aprfc@noaa.gov. Or you could call and speak with one of our hydrologists at 1-800-847-1739. They would love to get your reports. Well, looking at the satellite image today, we have clear skies across the north. There's a broad band of higher level cloudiness showing up very clearly from the Gulf of Alaska back to the northwest across the southwest part of the state, curling back through the Aleutians in association with an area of low pressure. There's actually a couple areas of low pressure, one very weak circulation just off of Kodiak Island, and a little better organized low that's south of Unalaska there. Otherwise, as you can see, as we go across the southeast on up through central portions of the state, skies are generally clear thanks to area of high pressure that has been really across the region for the past week and will continue to hold here going into the upcoming weekend, though we will continue to watch a low pressure system briefly strengthen as it comes out of the North Pacific south of the Aleutians and works its way northeastward here during the course of the weekend. So with that being said, overall most of the state though will be enjoying some fine spring weather as we come up over the next few days. So here is the current weather map this late afternoon. Weak low pressure circulation off of Kodiak Island with an occluded front into the Gulf of Alaska and North Pacific, and then there's another area of low pressure that is just off the south end of the southwest peninsula, and that system has with it some scattered light rain showers. A few of the higher elevations in through the southwestern Alaska peninsula may be mixed with a little bit of snow, but nothing especially heavy. And at the present time, we don't have any winter type advisories or anything in effect, though we do continue to have a flood warning, a river flood warning there for the Anchor River, the Kenai Peninsula, as the result of melting snow, higher flows. Otherwise, as we head into later tonight, early tomorrow morning, there will be some cooling. Most temperatures will get back down near or below freezing, so that will suspend the melting that happens during the day. And it could allow for a transition to a little bit more of a mix or a little bit of snow, especially in the higher elevations there of the southwest. A weak area of low pressure remains there out over the just south of the Gulf of Alaska off of Haida Gwaii. And then we're going to be watching an area of low pressure that's south of the Aleutians begin to gather a little more strength as it lifts northeastward Friday into Saturday. And that will bring another round of some rain and rain showers to the Aleutians on up into the southwest peninsula. Meanwhile, high pressure remains entrenched from far eastern Russia across northern Alaska and into the Canadian Arctic coast. And by the time we get into Saturday, you'll see high pressure still in place, maybe not quite as strong, but nevertheless bringing some fair skies and pleasant conditions during the daytime on Saturday throughout much of the interior into northwest Canada. And you can see that area of low pressure working its way up through the eastern Aleutians into the tip of the southwest peninsula. And with it, it will bring rain and certainly for flight IFR conditions. And taking a look at temperatures across the region. So low temperatures overnight. Many areas, especially inland away from the coast, will get down below freezing, so that tends to suspend the freezing. And as we go into the day tomorrow, temperatures will recover back up into the mid and upper 50s across southeast Alaska from Ketchikan on up toward Skagway. And then as we go a little west, you'll see Anchorage up to 56, Talkeetna up to 62. So warmer temperatures there in the valleys, especially toward the interior. And as we go into Saturday morning, most low temperatures will be back down around or certainly below freezing across the interior. And then as we head through Saturday afternoon, very nice readings, mid-upper 50s along the coast. Lower 60s, though, inland areas there, as you can see at Talkeetna and McGrath. And then as we go into the far north, we are looking for temperatures to get down in the high single digits to around 10 above along the Arctic coast. Below freezing in through the Yukon Valley and up toward the north slopes there of the Alaska range, so that again will suspend, slow down the melting, the thawing cycle. And then during the daytime, though, Fairbanks should be back up around 60 degrees, as will some of the other valleys. And then as we go into Saturday morning, look for low temperatures into the lower mid-teens across the north slope and Arctic coast, generally 20s elsewhere. And then on Saturday afternoon, that will really allow for some nice warm temperatures there in through the valleys for further melting, which will likely cause more openings to develop in the area rivers. And temperatures on Saturday afternoon will likely again get up a bit above 60 degrees there, at least into the lower 60s across a number of those valleys. And as we get out to the southwest, we are looking for temperatures for tonight, interior areas to be down near or below freezing, dipping into the 20s. Elsewhere, though, as we extend out into the Bering and Pacific, we will see temperatures remaining above freezing, generally in the upper 30s. And then on Friday afternoon, we can expect that temperatures inland areas will be back up well into the 50s, and along the coast and extending down into the Aleutians, temperatures generally remaining in the 40s. And as we head into Saturday morning, temperatures again, interior areas will dip below freezing, get back down into the mid-20s to around 30 degrees. But then along the areas that are surrounded by water, as we go out through the Aleutian chain and the southwest peninsula, temperatures will generally stay above freezing in the upper 30s. And high temperatures on Saturday afternoon should be approaching 60 or so in McGrath. And then as we get down along the extension there of the Aleutians, highs will be generally in the 40s. So there you have it for what will be a very pleasant weekend for most areas. But again, portions of the west are going to pick up on some precipitation because we have that area of low pressure that's going to be lifting from the far northern Pacific up across the eastern Aleutians, heading northeastward The interior parts of the state, especially from around Anchorage northward through and past Fairbanks, and then to the southeast, including all of the southeast peninsula, should enjoy generally fair skies this weekend, along with temperatures that will be up into the 50s, with some areas even breaking into the 60s. So there you have it for our show today. And we will have our segment to speak about the River Watch segment coming up on Thursday. So enjoy your weekend, and we got one more day to go with Friday ahead of us.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
In our aviation weather segment of the show, we are going to be watching a large area of IFR conditions out over the Bering Sea into the southwest peninsula and extending out into the open waters there of the North Pacific up through Kodiak Island. And as we head through Friday afternoon, we'll see conditions at least relax a bit there in the west, though, with MVFR conditions continuing across much of southwest Alaska, and the interior enjoying beautiful weather with high pressure and firm control, and that extends all the way into northwest Canada down into the southeast. And as we go through Saturday morning, look for IFR conditions across much of the southwest, extending into the Bering Sea once again. And then as we go into the afternoon hours, conditions do improve a bit across the interior. Keep in mind, with all the melting and things we have going on, we do have a tendency to redevelop some low-level stratus and even potential for some fog there. But otherwise, interior areas will enjoy VFR conditions. And when we look at the past conditions on Friday, we anticipate across the bulk of the interior, Anaktuvuk, as well as Adigan, enjoying VFR conditions. And heading down toward the southwest, Lake Clark and Merrill will see MVFR conditions in the morning, and those could linger into Friday afternoon, especially the west side of the passes, the west entrances, whereas the east side should tend to improve to VFR. And as we go a little further north, Rainy will also see MVFR conditions in the morning, but should improve to VFR for the afternoon. And then as we get a little further north and east, that'll just be the trend, VFR conditions with high pressure dominating the weather. Isabel heading on east toward Mentasta, as well as Tanita, and then dropping to the south there at Portage. VFR conditions will rule, and we'll also see VFR conditions in the southeast panhandle there with Chilkoot and White enjoying VFR conditions during the day on Friday. Now, freezing levels have come up compared to a couple of weeks ago when we were in much colder temperature regime, and also the fact we have high pressure in place. This warming has allowed a dome of a little warmer air and higher freezing levels, upwards of 6,000 to 8,000 feet there across the western interior. And then as we go down through the Aleutian chain, freezing levels are generally around 4,000 feet, and we can see that 4,000 to near 6,000 foot freezing levels extending down along the southeast coast. As for icing, there is the potential of some icing, especially across southwest parts of the state, between 8,000 and 16,000 feet on Friday, and across the central eastern Aleutians, generally between 7,000 and 14,000 feet. And as we go up to the jet stream level, 30,000 feet, there is a high pressure circulation there over northwest Alaska, and the winds are strongest. There's a little core of 100-knot winds around, looks like Nunavik Island on up into the northern Bering Sea. Those winds are from the south-southeast at the 30,000 foot level. Elsewhere, the interior, though, relatively light. The Arctic coast, though, northwesterly winds 50 knots. And then we also have an area of winds across the eastern Aleutians upwards to 75 knots from the southwest and west. Coming down to 9,000 feet, we still have high pressure circulation there just south of the Brooks Range over the interior, and winds generally out of the southeast across southwest Alaska into the northern Bering Sea between 30 and 40 knots. And as we go to the lower levels, weak circulations of high pressure over the Alaska interior. We have a weak circulation off of Haida Gwaii, and as we go back toward the Aleutians, there's a low pressure system there in the Pacific that is south of the central Aleutians, producing southeast winds of 40 to as high as 50 knots south of the main area of Aleutian Islands there. But for turbulence, we are looking for some turbulence and even a little low-level wind shear from portions of the southwest across the Alaska Peninsula into the eastern half of the Aleutians. And that'll be the case here through the day on Friday. Another thing to make note of is the volcano Semi continues to have an ash eruption that is pushing ash upwards to around 8,000 feet as 11 a.m. This Thursday morning. And the drift has been toward the south-southwest, toward the Pacific side of the Aleutians, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, we will continue to see inland areas enjoy some very fine weather here over the upcoming weekend, with generally VFR conditions anticipated. As always, before you go out on a flight, check the latest conditions and observations, and safe flights and travel to you.
This is one of the weeks where we stargazers love to look up. The Lyrid meteor shower is here. To spot the shower, head outside after midnight on Thursday and Friday. The Lyrids get their name from the constellation Lyra the Harp. Vega is the brightest star, and it will be in the east. Bring chairs under blankets, warm drinks, and a snack. It'll take 20 to 30 minutes for your night vision to max out, so avoid screens while you look for meteors burning up in the atmosphere. Astronomically, the Lyrids is pretty average, dropping about 20 meteors per hour at the peak. That said, there are sometimes Lyrid fireballs, which can cast shadows and leave behind smoke trails that linger for minutes. Minutes! I know, exciting. Pro tip, if you want to wait until about 4 a.m., the bright moon will be nearly setting and the shower will be peaking at the top of the western sky, so you can lay on your back and keep looking up.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica Cherry, bringing you your April 22nd Alaska Breakup Outlook. I'm going to tell you that we have above average risk for flooding in the upper Yukon this year and Kuskokwim River in some locations. Let's get into the details. Now, we base our breakup outlook on 3 factors: the ice thickness and its strength, the snowpack, and the spring weather pattern. Late April and early May temperatures control the snowmelt rates, the thermal condition and integrity of the ice, and the type of breakup, whether it's mechanical and dynamic or thermal and melts in place. Looking at ice thickness across the state, by and large, we have very normal ice thicknesses. A couple of exceptions are areas where freeze-up jams occurred during the fall, and they have thick and jumbled ice. This includes the Eagle area on the upper Yukon and Birch Crossing and downstream of AKwx on the Kuskokwim. Looking at the snowpack, we have well above average snowpack in the Kuskokwim Basin still, above average snowpack in the upper Yukon near the headwaters in Canada, and above average in southern Seward Peninsula, below average snowpack in the AKwx Basin and on the North Slope, and well above average in the northern southeast panhandle. Now, the upcoming temperature trends. Looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature trend ending on May 2nd, likely very normal temperatures throughout much of the state, possibly below normal in Anchorage and Fairbanks, and above normal in the northwest part of the state. The 8 to 10 day forecast ending May 6th shows exactly the same trend. So we're trending towards a mechanical breakup on Alaska's major rivers this year. Flood potential on the Kuskokwim River and upper Yukon is above average. Flood potential on the North Slope and AKwx basins is below average, and the average flood potential across many other parts of the state. Here's a picture of our partners at the National Operational Hydrologic Remote Sensing. They come up with their aircraft every spring to take measurements of snow water equivalent from the plane, and they've done transects all over the state, shown by these squiggles on the left. And that's how we know more about the snowpack than we get from just measuring snow on the ground. Thanks to our partners at the Aviation Center. Now we're looking at the spring flood potential graphic. The green area on the northern part of the state shows below average risk for snowmelt runoff flooding. And the red areas in the central part and the western part of the state show above average snowmelt runoff. Now, village flood potential are shown by circles, and that reiterates what I just talked about, increased risk on the upper Yukon and parts of the Kuskokwim. Now, if you have trouble reading the colors red and green, we have a text-based product on our website at weather.gov/APRFC. The current status of river breakup has begun to happen. So we have some open water on the Middle Tanana and Nenana rivers, some open water on the Kenai Peninsula, the Alaska Peninsula, and southeast rivers are open. Now our River Watch team is going to be launching here at the end of April. This is a collaboration with the state of Alaska and local communities to monitor breakup from small aircraft. We'll also be looking from satellite at open water. Here I've got a picture of the Chena River in Fairbanks is open at the mouth with the confluence at the Tanana. Finally, we have some resources for you online. I mentioned that text-based product at our website. The Alaska Breakup Map and Graphical Breakup Outlook maps are also on our website. Again, weather.gov/APRFC. Finally, we need your observations and your help with breakup. Go ahead and submit observations of breakup timing or other information at our website. You can email us at nws.ar.aprfc@noaa.gov or give us a phone call at 907-266-5160 or 1-800-847-1739. Thank you.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back to the marine weather segment of our show and today's Sea Ice Edge. Well, we continue to see things beginning to break up there along the west coast as we have had some areas experience more of an easterly flow, and with the warmer temperatures that have occurred, especially in the daytime across the interior. So this trend should continue here as we round out Friday and into the upcoming weekend, though there is an area of low pressure that is going to be coming up out of the North Pacific across the eastern Aleutians into the southwest, and that is initially going to bring about some east-northeasterly winds on the backside of that system. So we expect the ice there, especially from the areas along the edge there, to be expanding back maybe a bit toward the west and even southwest as that system then eventually passes. But taking a look at what we have for waves and winds in the southeast peninsula, generally northerly flow, the inner waterways strongest up there through Lynn Canal, upwards to 25 knots with waves 5 feet, Skagway to Juneau. The areas out the open waters of the Gulf, generally easterly winds, 10 to 15 knots, so as high as 25 knots there coming out at Gustavus, and waves generally around 6 to 8 feet. On Saturday, continued north flow, inner waterways with waves generally running 3-4 feet, and then across the Gulf, winds will be northeast to north, 10 to 20 knots, waves generally around 6 feet. Across south central areas, a northeast flow around 10 to 15 knots will be common, and with waves around 2 feet in Prince William Sound, 2 to as high as 4 feet at the mouth of Cook Inlet, and upwards to 7 feet there just northeast of Kodiak Island and off of the Kenai. And then on Saturday, more of a northwest flow, right around 10 knots, waves in Prince William Sound a couple of feet, for Cook Inlet a foot or 2, and then off the Kenai upwards to 4 feet. The Alaska Peninsula, we'll see winds out of the east-northeast, 10 to 15 knots being pretty common, with waves on the Gulf and Pacific side running right around 6-7 feet, but 1 to 3 feet on the Bering side. And as that low pressure lifts out of the eastern Aleutians, it is going to turn the winds initially more east to southeast, anywhere from 10 to as high as 30 knots as you get down toward Cold Bay and False Pass, with waves building upwards to 11 feet on the North Pacific side. And then on Friday, look for in the Aleutians, eastern Aleutians, winds out of the east at about 20 knots, a little bit more of a northeast and northerly component, the western half of the Aleutians, and waves on the Pacific side running right around 7 feet and 4 to 6 feet on the Bering side. And then you can see that area of low pressure moving through the eastern Aleutians, circulation ahead of it southeasterly, but more northerly on the backside, and winds out ahead of it could be as high as 30 to 35 knots. On Alaska, waves running upwards around 10 to 12 feet. On the backside, 5 to 7 feet toward Kiska. And then across the western areas, we are looking for, at least over the ice, winds 10 to 15 knots, mainly out of the east, 15 knots easterly, waves 4 feet at St. Paul, St. George. But as that low pressure, tighter gradient works its way northward, St. Paul, St. George will have easterly winds 30 knots with waves around 8 feet. And out over the ice, winds generally in the 15 to 20 knot range, though once you get south of the Yukon and Susquehanna deltas, that it could be upwards to 25 knots with some 4-footers. And then along the Arctic coast, winds will be southeasterly to south at 10 to 20 knots, and then western northwest coast there, south-southwest from Point Hope on up toward Wainwright, and offshore Kotzebue Sound down toward Nome. And as we go into Saturday, southeast winds around 10 knots there, Prudhoe Bay and much of the Arctic coast, and areas along the northwest coast seeing offshore, generally offshore easterly flow 10 to 15 knots. So for tonight, we have a weak area of low pressure off of Haida-Gwaii in the Gulf of Alaska, with a few areas of low pressure just toward the bottom of the map. The one south of the Aleutians is going to be the main one that strengthens a bit to about a 985 low on Friday. Otherwise, just weak troughiness lingers over the Gulf of Alaska, with high pressure firmly in place from eastern Russia across the northern half of the state into northwest Canada. And by Saturday, that low will be moving through the eastern Aleutians, bringing areas of rain in that occluded front, whereas interior areas from Anchorage northward and past Fairbanks will enjoy some fine spring weather with temperatures in the 50s to lower 60s.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.